Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. I am Mondo here at Minotaur Studios, and I am going to show you how to do a base wrap. So it's one of the first ones I did. And you can even see, even if the wrap isn't crazy, if the stone is beautiful enough, that makes the piece, you know? So sometimes simple is the answer. This is the square wire you're going for, and it is square wire, 21 gauge, dead soft. So it is very pliable and easy to bend. Wants to work with you. The second wire you're going to be using, again, I get from Rio Grande, is the 21 gauge dead soft half round. So the difference between these is this wire is shaped into a square, like a perfect square. And this half round wire is basically it's half round on the top and then it's flat on the bottom. So you've got kind of like a half circle going on. And that is what you see here. The square wire runs all the way around. It basically establishes the whole frame of the pendant. And the half round is what pinches them together and holds it. Let me get my lighting a little bit better here. So like right here, you can see a few bindings here. I call these the bindings. There's a few more. So, two types of wire. Okay, so I tried to pick a stone that is very easy or easier to see from this angle and is very bright so you could see the copper wire on top of it. So this is a blue lace agate that I'm going to wrap. And I'm just going to do a basic wrap on it. Nothing crazy. What I like to do and what I recommend is sketching your design. So you kind of know where you're going and you have a plan. So I usually take my stone, sketch it out, trace it, and then I do a second one. Like that. There we go. I do the little veil on top, And then what I do is I also plan my bindings, right? And the bindings are these half rounds right here. How many do I want in each batch and how many total? I do recommend putting bindings on the shoulders here on the sides of the bail. It makes it a lot easier to make the bail. There we go. Cool. So I did 3, 3, 3, and the ones next to the bail are 2 and 2. The reason being is I want it to hold these wires together and down without really getting in the way of my bail and aiming it straight. So for me, that's one of the hardest things is getting the bail tight down to the stone without having a big old gap right there and still getting it straight. So having 2 on the shoulders is easier than 3 for me as far as these little bindings. Now we'll get to cutting the wire now that we have our plan here. Oh, coffee. Okay. So we got our cutters. The way that I tell how much wire I need is I kind of eyeball it. So here's our stone, right? Now I know I'm going to eat up some room by doing these hands right here. It's going to take up a little bit more length out, and that's okay. See, and I've done a handful of these, so I know how much is enough and how much isn't. So right here, I just kind of work it around my stone, and as you can see right there, I'm around my stone, and I've got more than enough room on top. I probably only need about that much, but just to be safe, I'm going to cut it right there. Boom. So like that. And also worth mentioning, the front wire should be a bit longer than the other wires. The reason being is when I make this design, I use the front wire to create the bail. That bail is just made with the 2 front wires wrapped in half round. Okay, so now the next step, you get all your wires together. So you're going to want to get them close to side by side, and this is where this amazing tool, I call it the time machine, it undoes mistakes you do and bends in your wire here. You're going to hold them together because you want all four to be flat. They don't need to be perfect, right? But we want to get them pretty flat, get the kinks worked out. So you kind of run it along your wire. Some of them you may need to do individually on a few different sides. There we go. There we go. So now what you want to do is find the middle of all your wires. So get them all together so that they're balanced on both sides. This is very important. I don't get so into it that I measure it, but I'm just saying, at least eyeballing it, you want it to be pretty close. I spend all day using these. It's so cool how it straightens it all back out. Okay, cool. All right. So here we are. Here's the half round. Okay. And it's definitely going to be hard for you to see, but when you're doing it here, you'll be able to tell how the light reflects off of this wire will tell you which side you're on. So this side right here is actually the half round because I can see the light is kind of bending around the edges. When you flip it over, you've got the flat side here and the light is just flat. So we are now on the step where we're creating these bindings, right? So we're going to start from one side. We know we need one with two, and then we'll move our way around. Now, something to mention, when you clip these, it's a good idea to have safety protection on your eyes, because sometimes when you clip them, they'll go flying and it will hit you in the face, or it could potentially poke you in the eye. You know, when these are projecting, this is pretty sharp, so keep that in mind. It doesn't matter where you put these because they can slide as long as you don't put them too tight. So we want the flat side to be down, touching the wire. That's where we want to start. So it'll look something like that, right? Flat side down. So the round should be touching your finger, your pointer finger here. Here's how I like to do it. So I've got it right here. The outside's facing up. We've got our flat part of our wire right here like that. The flat part is facing up right now. And I'm just gonna gently roll it over. And then this slack that you see, you probably don't see it, the slack between the wire I get rid of with my thumb. Usually like that. Boom. Okay. And just tuck it around. Now there are a lot of ways that you can do this binding wire, like this part of the design. This is just what works for me. I mean, as with anything on here, if you want to modify it, that is totally your call. If you find something that works better for you, go for it. Okay, cool. Coffee. Okay, and then I like to just kind of make sure I'm keeping my wires as balanced as I can, because as you're doing all this moving around, sometimes one will be way on the other side than the other. And when you put too many of these bindings on, you can't always keep sliding it. Sometimes it gets kind of stuck. Okay, so here we go. Now I'm just going to replicate that same thing that we just did for adding the bindings, but I'm going to do 3. Give it a good once over. And when I'm doing this, this is very light. You do not want to mash down on that. Alright guys, so this next section is going to be explaining how to go from the bindings. So we've already finished our bindings. We've got all 5 of them. And the edges are all on one side, the back side. And then we're going to go from this step to opening up the hands, which is what these guys are right here on both sides. That is what holds the stone in. So we've got right here one hand, and then on the back side, a reciprocating hand. They don't always need to be matching, but we do need to make sure that we plan it out, balance it out, and this is going to be the step that explains that. So this is, let me try and focus it here. This is the setup I use to make my hands uniform, clean, and without scratching and marring the wire. So this is a pair of locking jaw pliers that I've got here. And I've got a small flathead screwdriver, like an eyeglass screwdriver, pinched in it. And it's a very fine tip flathead. So you have to be careful when you're working with it. If it slips and your fingers are too close, there's a chance that you could scratch or cut your finger. So please be mindful of that. If you need to wear gloves, put some gloves on. All right, here we are. So the first thing we want to do is make sure our hands are in the right places. Our bindings. So we don't want them too big or too small. We need the grab to be exactly where we need it, according to our plan. So we're just going to find the middle of the wire, which is right here, and we only need to worry about the middle binding, right? Because we know the middle is going to be right here. Long wire up. Okay. We'll do a gentle shaping on it. We're just bending it around slightly and slowly. Now at this point, one of the biggest tips I can give you is try and make sure the wire stays straight. You don't want it to bend in an angle. I mean, it's not a huge deal, but you want to, you know, before we start making the hands, make sure it is as flat as you can to the stone. The angle is not weird. Okay. Okay. Cool. So from looking at this, we can move the hands down, make sure they're even. Yep. Okay. Get a little bit of angle there. Okay. There we go. Cool. A little bit more. There we go. So now we can see it's pretty balanced. We've got one on each side, one on the bottom. So now we're good to make the hands here and here. So you're going to want to pinch one of the bindings with your left finger and thumb, and the right one with your right finger and thumb. And then, let me focus this. There we go. You're going to separate the first and the second wire using this tool. So you're going to place it just underneath it, and you'll feel it click or kind of hold in right there. When you have that, pinch, and all you're doing is just gently rolling it. And you want it to be directly in the middle of both bindings. And this is very gentle. I'm pretty much just rolling it and working it and making sure my fingers are staying out of the way of that plier. There we go. And you can see it starts to work its way through. There we go. So once you're there, you can decide on the width of your hand. If you want it to be bigger, you just roll it down, and that will naturally give it that point. Now we're going to go over the blade of the screwdriver, and then we're going to do the same thing on the back side. And you want to, again, enter in the middle so it matches where the point is on your first hand. There we go. So you can see it coming through again. There we have her. Perfect. Now the middle wires, if those have distorted or moved, you can just fix that with your fingernails. Okay, we'll take another look at the stone. We're looking pretty good there. Not bad. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the next one. So we'll see where we have our bindings, where we want our bindings. Right there, perfect. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. So we'll pinch the bindings. We'll go right onto the blade, and you can hold it with your fingers like this too. That's another good way of doing it so the blade doesn't surprise you or move. And I mean, sometimes it just works right out. There we go. Okay, that's it for the hand making process. So I definitely recommend when you're done with that, take the screwdriver out so that you don't have any kind of poking hazards. What we're going to do is bend them down and shape them to our stone and adjust them, balance them, do any tweaks we need to. So we're going to start right here. We're going to fold these hands down. And I just use my fingers for this part. I don't think, I mean, you can use your pliers if you'd like, but this copper wire is so soft. I mean, with other designs, I definitely do some other tricks, but fingers will be fine for this. And what I'm doing right now is just pressing them down. There we go. So you have your hands out. Now let's do the back side of those. The same two we just did. I like to do this just because it keeps it balanced and it keeps the wire kind of moving in one direction. If you work bottom up like that, do the bottom sides and then move up to the top. It just, for me, it feels like it stays more balanced. Okay, so fold that down, push a little bit, fold it down. There we have her. So there's the back. Let's flip it back over. There we go. Okay. So now here comes that trick I was talking about earlier where you're taking your needle nose pliers or your chain nose pliers. You're pressing it into, I mean, I've got a mouse mat here, so it's a little easier for me. I definitely recommend using this on a mouse mat. So you press and you're just kind of rolling it in and you see how the gap goes away? It's more like it's kind of like a lever technique, using it as like a lever. And I go around and I kind of do that to eliminate any of the gaps on the middle wire. That helps out a lot. There we go. There we go. So there we have it. Now we're going to move on to the top two hands. Cool. So this looks symmetrical enough for me. I'm good with that. The gaps are pretty much in check. The back side is fairly balanced and good. Cool. So now we're going to move on to the bail making stage. Let's make a bail. So we've already shaped it. Everything's good. We're ready to start creating the bail at top here. All right. So what we need to do is take both of these kind of shoulders here and get them flat to the stone. We also need a 90-degree angle from the left side and a 90-degree angle from the right side so that they meet and go straight up. This is probably the most challenging part of this design, for me at least, is getting these to sit down and go straight up. Now I usually create these shoulders to have two in them just because it's easier for me, but what you'll notice is sometimes they like to slide over and get in the way. So there'll be some readjusting during that process. So like I was saying, you also want your bail to be straight. So if you look down the center of your stone and you follow it straight up, that's where you want your bail to be. If it's slightly off or slightly this way, it may be aesthetically displeasing for you. So here we go. Here's what we do. Put that binding back down, and you're pretty much eyeballing where you grab these and go to bend them down and make that move. So that is going to take some practice. No way around that. So I like to sit the bottom of the stone down so it doesn't move and the wires don't slip. Pinch one side And the motion that I'm kind of making here is I'm going to grab it and I'm going to go like this. So you're kind of going down and encouraging the wire to turn down while staying together. Here, let me try and get the best angle for you here. So here we go. Got a good grab on it. And I'm just going to sit it down. See what I'm saying about that binding sliding? That always seems to happen. I just kind of lift up and move it back. Okay. So we've got this coming down. Okay. All right. And then I'll move the wires back. So that's a starting point. Let's get the other side going. Okay. So this is kind of at your discretion on how much of a gap you want to get rid of between the bail and the stone. For me, I like it as tight and close as I can to getting rid of that gap. That's just my style. So I do some things here to try and close that gap. So I'll grab it and pinch them together. And when you do that, the wires on top kind of go crazy. And just squish them back. Okay, I adjust any hands that might have moved from that maneuvering. Okay, and now we're getting closer. So this right side is solid. The left side has a little bit of a gap here, and that's what I'm going to work on. Okay, so I'll go in here again and just try and get it to sit down appropriately. Okay, that's getting better. Getting better. Here we go. Give it a little bit of pressure again. Okay, so now we've really gotten rid of that gap. That is good for me. And like I said, you may need to just pull the hands back if the top wants to slide forward from that, and that is okay. Okay, perfect. So there we have it. Now what we're going to start doing is rolling the half round around the bail. So now we're going to finish the bail. We're going to wrap it up. So here's the back side of our stone, and here is the remaining half round wire we've got. So you're going to want the flat side of the half round touching the stone. So the half round side is looking straight back up at you. And you want to leave about this much slack on the back. Leave that there. Okay. Now the rest of it is going to come right up here and come over. So see what I'm doing? This is the back of the stone. We've got all this slack. It is coming around the front to wrap the bail. And you're going to want to pinch that together. Turn it back over. Now we're looking at the front again. Make sure these bindings on the shoulders stay out of the way. I know they're friendly. And just keep them out of the way when you're wrapping here. Okay, here we go. So we're going over the front once, trying to pinch it together. So that it looks like that. And what you can do is you can come right in here with your pliers, push it down just slightly and give it a pinch. That will help to keep that gap in check. Okay, now we're going around the back again. There we go. We're pulling it right back around the front. And it's worth mentioning, when you do this, these wires shouldn't be getting all twisted. So don't do it tight. I mean, it should be firm, but not to where these are all twisting and morphing around. Just want it like that. There we go. Come around the back again. And then we're going to do something a little bit different. It's going to come around the front, so you see 3 bars. Now, to make sure it's down as much as we can get it. Move these friendly bindings over just a hair. And then what you're going to want to do, your front 2 wires right here should be your long ones. So what you're going to do is make sure the bail wires stay down, and then you're going to fold these 2 down. So give them some encouragement, just a little bit, like that. Got it? Okay. All right, so we were on our 3rd loop right here, and we didn't go around the back because we're not gonna. We're actually gonna go right here. So now we're starting to rotate only around the front 2 wires. Now make sure when you do this that your half round did not twist right here, because that does happen a lot. And then you'll be noticing that you're looking at the flat side, and it will be, it won't be uniform. So it should look like that right now from the front. Okay, so let's carry on. These 2 front wires are down, and this is coming up and around just like the first one did, around only the front 2 wires. And make sure, again, that your rotations are close together and that they're not twisting right here. If they twist, you'll be looking at the flat wire instead of the half round. And in most designs with this base wrap, everything you see is half round. Half round here, 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 at the top, and all along the bail. You never really see the flat side. So if you see flat, usually means it twisted somewhere. So anyhow, now we are going around the front 2 wires, and we're going to continue doing that. Right now we're making the bail, so all will depend on how big you want your bail to be. And I like to keep my bail small, just because I've noticed that if your bail is too big, at least for me, it throws the balance off, and it really becomes the focal point of your pendant rather than the actual stone. And at certain points, you'll want to take your pliers, and you can just kind of nudge it down gently to compress them, so you don't have any gapping between your rotations here. Okay, that's probably more than I need. But I'm just going to leave it there. We'll see where it lands. Perfect. All right, so these wires, if you want to, this would be the opportunity, like in future videos, you'll see you can create designs right here and embellishments around the bail, especially if you'd like to hide this gap, or if you just want to add something. So instead of it coming out, very standard and straightforward like that, you can add some flair to it. Let me grab one here. So like something like this. This would come from these wires. And when you're making these wires, maybe adding additional length, knowing that you're going to be going around or creating a swoop or doing something like that. But these, for now, we're not going to do that. We're just going to snip these off. So everything's tight and good. So we can cut all of these except the one that we just rotated. And remember, safety eyewear, these can go flying. And most of the time they do. Okay, so that's kind of what you're looking at now. You don't need to go much lower than that. If you do, you run the risk of them starting to slip below this binding and loosening. So now to create the bail, there are many different tools you can use. You can use the round nose pliers that I included under optional tools, and you can take it and roll it like that with your round nose. You can use like a pencil if you'd like to. I mean, this will be a big bail, but anything like that. They make bail making pliers like this, which you would grab like this, squish it, and then roll it back, and it pretty much makes the bail for you. But what I got used to doing is using a mandrel, and I really like these small mandrels. I don't know why, it just works great for me. So I use the second step right here. Boom. And again, you know, that's how all this should be. The processes I'm showing you are just what worked for me, and they're meant to just get you started, teach you what you like, and modify, you know, find something that works better for you. So this just helps me to roll it over, and there's the bail. So at this point, I'm going to straighten it out a little bit with my hand here. Cool. And then I like to try and tuck this up if I can. Just lift the coils up so it's very dense up there. Okay. So that came out pretty good. Okay, so we're not going to need this extra length right here. We can just snip that off. And then, like anything, when we snip it off, we need to tuck that wire back in and down so it's not a catch. Boom. Okay. Right, and then I'm going to press these two down with my finger here, just so they're not hanging out. And this is what it looks like from the side. And the front. Alright, now we got this slack wire here. This is going to play a very crucial role. And I always like to smooth it out. And just give it one go. Okay. So now this is going to hold the whole bail together. So make sure you got the half round side facing out. And we're just going to go across. So it's coming around the back. Make sure these happy little bindings are out of the way. You don't want to wrap over them. Okay, there we go. Now we created a gap for this wire to go in. Boom, there we go. Now we'll move this one here. Okay, we'll go around in there. You see how I'm just continuing on the bail? It looks like it's just a continuation, nice and smooth. And then we will continue on the next one below. Do a second lap. And I recommend, I mean, I like to do two rotations around the full bail. That to me is pretty strong. And if they start overlapping, you can just tuck it down with your fingernail. There you go. And give it a little pull. Cool. Okay, then when you get here, you're going to take the slack and it is going to go beneath. It's going to start rotating around these two wires. So you're just going to tuck beneath there, pull it from right here, like so. There you go. And when you do, realize that slack was created here, so you'll need to push that back down and work that slack back out with your pliers. One rotation around the back. We're going to do the second one. We also got the slack out right here. So now that it's nice and tight, here goes the second rotation. It's just going to go right across and continue going down those two wires. And I like to push it up with my nail. Keep those rotations together. And we're going to tuck it below the same two wires. Like that. Alright. Okay. Here we go. See how it got nice and tight there? That's perfect. You don't need to do more than two of these. I mean, that is going to be more than enough to hold it together now. So what I like to do, tuck the tail up just a little bit. And let's grab our precision cutters here. And we're just going to do what we've been doing. Cut it so that nothing shows, so you want to get about halfway in. And make sure you're only clipping the one wire. Because if you clip something else, it's going to really mess you up at this point. We'll squish it down a little bit. We'll fold these legs down here. Okay. So here you can decide how big you want your bow tie on the back. So I like to keep them pretty small, but you could carry it down and make big ones if you'd like. The only thing to consider with that is it might get caught in clothing or for some reason be uncomfortable for somebody to wear. So I like to just offset them slightly, like maybe that. And you can use these pliers. It does make the loops of the bow tie look a little bit better if you use the half round. And those were included in the optional tools. And these are both 2 round points on the pliers, so it helps you to roll and keep that circle design. So we're going to grab the end here and just kind of start to roll it. Which gives you that. Now you can use these. Won't be as circular looking, but that's okay. Remember, they were optional tools. So you're going to grab it right here, and you're going to just start to roll it with your pointers. Now it won't be the same effect. You don't use the same technique because you don't have the same tool. So you see I just kept walking it up to get that curl going. And then right here, make sure you only grab that end wire. You don't want to grab a hand and bend it at this point. It'll be pretty bad. So there we go. You want to make sure you tuck these in so that they don't catch. So that's pretty tucked in, and the other one is too. Okay, so here we are. One other thing you can do, so you can see a little bit of a gap up there if you're really looking. So what you can do sometimes is just, you can take the point on your pliers and you can gently press down the last 1 or 2 rotations to kind of cover that gap. So it helps to stop seeing through the pendant, and it pretty much hides that. And this pendant's not moving in the housing at all. It is very strong, very durable. So this is how you make a base wrap pendant. And this is more of an optional step, is to use a polishing cloth. So this is a yellow sunshine polishing cloth. I got it from riogrande.com. That's where I got my wire and a handful of my tools also. I highly recommend them. This cloth is very easy to use. Basically just take it, and if you're on bare natural wire like we used in this one, in this tutorial, you can just rub this polishing cloth on the wire and it removes the tarnish. So your wire will naturally get darker over time if you used bare wire, and that's okay. It's just, if you want that shine back and you don't want kind of that rustic antique look, you just lightly rub across the wire and it gets its shine back. And so you see how this side right here is not shiny at all, but now this one is reflecting high. That's basically what it does. It makes it look new again. So very easy to do. Go gentle, and you always want to go with the wire. So as you guys are learning how to wire wrap, this is crucial, because if you pull on the hand, pull it out, there's a chance your wrap can come undone. So you're always going very gentle with it and trying to think about, how the stone was wrapped so you don't cause tension in the wrong areas. But that's another tip and trick to keep it looking good. I'm going to hop on here real quick and say thank you. I really appreciate any of your support, a like, a subscribe, a share, visiting my website, or even a follow on Instagram. Thank you for watching my videos. I will be producing many more tutorials. I love sharing anything I figure out, any knowledge, and helping other people express their creativity. So thank you, and I will catch you in the next video.